There you go. All right. So I am Kenisha from English, Math, and More, and I am speaking with a previous and delighted customer, Natalie Lopez Vega. You want to tell the folks a little bit about yourself?
Okay, hi, I'm Natalie, like Kanisha mentioned. I've been working for her about, I don't know, it feels like a year, about to be 2 years. I began work with her. We're going to talk about why I decided to study work with her and how things affected my life and how this investment is worth it for those who are watching the video, and also getting like a real experience from a student, right? And also like the online world. She doesn't do in person anymore, which I'm grateful because I do not live in San Francisco.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I was able to adapt to learning online, like I think all of us are, right? Because you're probably either candidates in programs or you just want to up your math or English. So I'm here to give you all the details about working with Miss Carr.
All right. So like when did it start? How did you find me? Like what encouraged you to look for a tutor?
Okay, so I started my program in 2019, and right when COVID hit, things went off online. I know I needed to have my CBEST done and my CSETs done in order to start student teaching. So I was getting down to the wire. I procrastinate a lot, and we'll go into detail. Um, and I remember I was trying to do it by myself. I passed CSET one. I'm an English teacher. I passed CSET one by myself, and from reading online, everybody's like, "That's the hardest test, and if you could pass that, you're good." So I felt very confident, and then I was still missing my math part from my CBEST. So I decided to focus on that because I always knew math was my weakest skill. And I purchased everything. For example, I did study.com. I did those Google, when you Google CBEST help or passing CSET exams, you get all those courses that it says, hey, we guarantee you pass your test in the first try or bump your scores. If not, we'll give you back your money. I never did. My scores never went up higher than um 30. I was always in the 20s. And if you've taken the CBEST math, I don't know what the 20s mean, but I know it's not a passing score. So I was very defeated. And then a little bit about myself, I don't like showing my weakness. So I still kept trucking. I still kept doing like, okay, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Like I'm in my master's program at USC. I graduated. I got this. Like, why am I not passing this dang exam that's basic math skills? So I kept trucking. I bought every workbook that was on, and I'm not on Instagram, I'm sorry, on Amazon. I would pass the little exams like on study.com at the end of each chapter with flying colors, and I never went up past the 30, and then I was getting devastated. So I went to another tutor online, and it was the same thing. Like, it was like, okay, bring your workbook and we'll go over some questions and some answers. But after taking the exam so many times, I realized that the test and the study supplement material didn't align. They were
Hmm.
changing. Um, Not only that, it was just like, I felt kind of cheated. Like, okay, you're saying it's basic math skills, but it's not aligning. So once I took it again with the other tutor, I decided to be like, okay, I really have to like invest in someone better, like literally a teacher. And of course, I have a lot of teacher friends, and I wasn't gonna go ask them because they are overworked. Um, so I continued to Google, and I found Miss Kenisha's car profile, and uh, I'll be honest, it was very intimidating at first because she gave you like this full blown, like right off the bat, like I'm dedicated. I'm willing to work, meet where you're at, as long as you're willing to work with me. She has so many years in education. She also really pushed the notion that she'll differentiate. She'll meet you where you're at. She doesn't expect you to come knowing everything, right? And again, me coming from my background where I'm like, I don't like saying that my math skills are horrible or really showing my weakness to someone, especially if I don't know you. And I had to do
Hmm.
an intake exam. I was like, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
I was very like, man, my skills are too low. It was embarrassing. The CBEST is presented as basic math skills, and I
Hmm.
couldn't even pass that test.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to actually take the leap to kind of fill out the questionnaire, tell her my background story, you know, and I'll be honest, I try to tailor my questionnaire as like, I'm really not that bad at math. Like, please work with me. I'm desperate. Um, and I remember saying everything I know, I taught myself. And
Hmm.
so that was my line in the little commentary that you made us fill out. And then um, I was doing the whole COVID thing, and I live in an apartment building, and everybody was on their Wi-Fi. And I remember our first intake exam, my alarm didn't go off.
Uh-huh.
So I woke up rushing, and then it was boom right off the bat. She was waiting for me on this platform, and I showed up and I apologized. And she had like the stare, right, like the teacher stare, like because based off her profile, she was the real deal. She was like, "I'm willing to put in the work with you if you're willing to put in the work." And by me showing up late, I was already showing like, dang, I'm not gonna be a good candidate to be like, okay, let me spend my time to get you where you want to be, right?
Hmm.
And um, so I did it, and at the end of the day, like at the end of the intake, you're like, you're not that far behind. You're good. And I was still kind of very in me, like, okay, wait until you get like in with working me. Like I don't really process math like I should be. You know, I have a hard time.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, we began working with each other, and that was how we started.
Yeah, it
I
wasn't.
connected it with your profile. Like your headshot
Uh,
was so professional. You were the only tutor that I found that had like a really in-depth bio. Like, hey, this is what I'm like about. So that's why I'm like, dang, she's right off the bat. Like, and especially when you're like, I want to know about you if I could work with you, right?
uh-huh.
So
Yeah,
that's why I was like, okay,
yeah.
okay, so by showing up late, I was like, dang, like she's not gonna pick me up. She doesn't want to waste my time. I showed up late. It's
Hmm.
basically saying you're not serious.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
stuff happens. You
But
know, you
I'm
have.
glad because I'm glad even now, well, I'll go into detail about why I felt the second time that I began working with you, that I was
Uh-huh.
kind of like worried, like, oh my God, are you still gonna pick me up type of thing. So
Yeah.
I remember I even called and emailed you in the middle of the night.
Um,
Yeah.
do you remember the part in my profile about me not taking a fast food approach to what I
Yes.
do? Does that sound familiar? Did that
Yeah.
add to some of the trepidation you were feeling?
Yeah. Because you
Okay.
were like, when I read it, I felt like, dang, this tutor is the real deal. It's not like you pay me, I give you like, I don't know if I can say bad words on here, but I can give you like this half ass, like,
Hmm.
for example, my previous tutors, it was basically like, okay, let's go over the questions. Basically, let's go over the test that they give you in the book. And it wasn't like in depth, like it was just overview. And I do have a basic overview of the math, but I needed to go really in depth. And um the fast food for me was like, you're gonna put in work, so don't expect an easy out.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that that's what you came for. I remember what was it? And I was just looking over your intake notes. You said um, other tutors want the student to guide them. You, Natalie, want, and I quote, "You're the tutor. I want you to guide me."
Because my experience with tutors have been, you're paying for a service,
Uh
right?
huh.
It was more like a study hall session. It wasn't like, hey, uh first of all, I've never done an intake exam with any tutor I work with, and I worked about with three. And
Uh
mind you,
huh.
one of those tutors was super expensive. That
Uh
I was
huh.
like, it's not what you're saying you're worth. It's not really transferring to my skills. So that's why I
Hmm.
had to hunt again for another tutor. But what I think I really wanted to say was, look at where I'm failing and then build off of it. Like whatever I have to do, like practice my math, tell me what to do to get better at it. I'm willing to do it.
Uh
Don't
huh.
just say, look over our steps we did together, because our lives are busy. I was in a program, I'm married, we're doing all this thing, and my husband's understanding
Hmm.
about investing in my education, but still, it's like we're both busy. Let's not waste our time.
Yeah.
And that's how
Yeah.
I felt. Yeah.
Got you. And something else you mentioned. You said, oh, I should have written it down. Look at me being a bad student. Right to the top. Oh, your husband. Hopefully that other question will come back to me, or other comment. But can you tell the lovely people what your husband does professionally?
My husband's well, when we began working with you, Kanisha, I began working with you. My husband was a sales rep, so he could do math in his head.
Uh
He
huh.
actually comes from another country where math is like a very high standard out there. So math for him was easy. And me and my husband, God bless his soul, he will try to work with me in CBEST. But that's when I realized I'm processing it different because he'll see the connections, the
Mhm.
patterns, and me, I'm like, I literally have to write everything out. I have to use tangibles. I'm a visualization person, and him no. And we would get in fights, right? Because I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm not processing it like you.
Mhm.
Um, and he still works in, now he's a claim adjuster, so he's still doing math, and now he's doing his BA for data analytics and IT management. So his whole world around numbers and math. Me,
Mhm.
it's just the opposite. So when I told him, like, I need a tutor and this is how much it looks like, because I'm willing to invest as much as I need to pass my test, he
Mhm.
knew, because we would bump heads.
Yeah.
And uh, I'm glad he never belittled me. Like, how do you not get this? How do you not know this? Why didn't it teach you this? And to be honest, I was never taught this. I grew up in public school. I grew up in South Central. We had no teachers that were willing to stay longer than a year, right? So I never had someone really teach me. I was always passed along until I got to CBEST, and I was like, dang, this is really showing like you didn't have any formal education in math.
Okay. And I'm glad you brought that up. So, and I finally remembered the other thing, but I'll come back to it later because it's probably going to come back up again. So you were passed through the K through 12 system,
Yeah.
um, and then you were passed again in college, right?
Yeah. In college.
Woo! And we get our degrees, and it's like, ooh, I got a degree. I know
Yeah.
all the things. And then you get your
Yeah.
degree, and you're like, what?
Yeah. So I'm a very good student. I would do the extra credit. I would do the homework. I would do study hall. I basically I just need to get a C in my math class, and that's it. That's how I was. I look at the syllabus and look like, okay, what do I needed the minimum to pass the classes, but it never stuck. It never transferred.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I began in Math 101 where teachers were telling you this is a digit, this is a whole number, and still it never stuck.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just me in my head that I was like, I don't really need this. Let me just put it in my memory bank, short memory bank, pass this class and move on.
Uh-huh.
But unfortunately, the CBEST, I needed those skills. But still,
Mm-hmm.
looking back, I don't think I would have learned what I needed to learn or have a basic understanding to pass the CBEST,
Okay.
because my math classes were basically passed along, I guess. I really couldn't. Yeah, I could say I've only had one teacher other than you who I felt like, wow, I really do get a grasp in math, and that was
Mhm.
algebra, solving for x and doing all that. That was what I was good at, but the other stuff I wasn't good at whatsoever.
So, and this is what's coming up for me. This is what keeps coming up. I'm a big Blooms fan. Often we are encouraged to just jump through hoops. And that hoop jumping is what occurs at the bottom, where it's just basic knowledge and comprehension. You can get away with yes or no stuff. You can get away with guessing. If multiple choice answers are presented to you, you just happen to guess the right one sometimes, or you get in the habit of repeating something over and over again, and you feel like
Yeah,
you're practicing. And to a degree, you are, but you don't know what you are doing really, and
yeah.
why all these things matter and fit together. Um, which is typical, not just of math.
Hmm.
it happens in a lot of subjects in a lot of classrooms. Um, and so you mentioned your hubby, um, and his keen sense of math and how it works, and him trying to help you, and realizing, hey, she needs a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
She needs some higher order stuff going on in the
Some,
back
I don't want
end.
to.
What's sticking in my mind is the word rehearsed. So these are my words, not Natalie's, but you had an opportunity basically to rehearse or practice
Yeah.
solving certain problems because you had been training yourself. But
Mm-hmm.
when they come up, when
The
they're
wording's
presented
completely
differently,
different.
yeah,
Yeah.
when they're
So
presented differently, it's like,
it's brand new to me. Like it goes back to like you don't know the basic of like how to attack the problem.
uh huh,
Um, Again, before I came with you, I was about a year already going through these workbooks, and all these workbooks had the same format. I
hmm
knew the steps,
hmm
but when I started working with you and I went on to take the CBEST exams, they were formatted completely different. And I didn't know how to attack the steps. Like I would read a question and I would see a keyword, or I'd be like, okay, I'm familiar with this
uh
because
huh,
I've seen multiple problems already.
hmm
But like I said, the exam wasn't aligning with what I was studying. And
hmm
I think that's the tricky part. You know, you have to have a whole understanding of the basis to be able to succeed on the CBEST.
And I'm so glad you said that. And I'm gonna make sure I show this to somebody with whom I'm currently working. And this sweet baby, it's a youngster, and she tries so hard. And she's like, "Oh, I see a key word," and she'll gravitate toward the key word. And I keep telling her, "No, Mama, don't do it."
Yeah.
She'll see like say each, and she associates each with multiplication, and she doesn't realize that each can be associated with other things. Same thing with like of.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot just attach certain words to certain kinds of problems. You have to know the context and look at the problem holistically. So
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so we started working together, did the intake session. We got into the nitty gritty.
Yes.
Um, and so like I'm starting to see like where the holes are. Like, okay, I'm starting to see the holes. Now, per the agreements that I share with students, and that's kind of a misnomer because they're basically rules. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a euphemism. These are some rules that I conjured, and by working with me, you agree that you're going to follow these rules. And one of them is you have to be ready to participate, even when I ask you to do something that you think is stupid. And if you have homework, it needs to be done before the session starts, or you run the risk of being required to do it during the session.
Hmm.
Um, um, that is,
Oh, and then your other one about you have, if you're gonna cancel on me, it has to be or reschedule. It has to be within this time frame. You know, so
mhm,
that was another one. And me as a high school teacher, I'm a big stickler on that because yes, I'm on for you 24/7 on school, but on my time, I'm not on for anybody. You know,
yeah,
so I don't want to be stepped all over
uh-huh,
type of thing. Yeah.
yeah. And so, what I don't, there's a lot that I don't mention in the rules, and there are reasons I do things. Um, but when we think of tutoring or academic coaching, we
Hmm.
tend to think about that lower level stuff. I'm going to jump through some hoops, and it's just because this person said so. And I see it a bit differently. This is also about helping people change their habits. And so I don't expect that people will leave tutoring sessions with me and say, "Oh my goodness, I'm just so inspired to never procrastinate a day in my life." By requiring folks to do homework during the session, it's my way of holding them accountable. Um, Not just in the because I said so sense, but getting them to understand this is important. I paid for this, and I'm paying this person, so she's providing me a service. And so I think the normal attitude would be, well, you can
You
just
work
do
for
it
me
later.
type of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can just do it later. And then also, because the lessons build on each other and they're based on what you know and don't know. I need to see what you don't know. So all the a do and don't know, all that is balled up in there. Can you share with the people
God,
your
no.
first experience?
Okay, I'll be honest. When I started working with Kanisha, yes, I was very afraid. And then once began working and she started looking at my likes and dislikes, I wasn't really fully bought into tutoring until that moment. In my mind, I still had I could be my bullshit my way through it. Like I
Uh-huh.
did college math, statistics, right? C's get degrees type of thing. Um, but no, she held me accountable. And as an adult, it really sucks because you're like, girl, you just wasted your money and you're wasting your time. But it's important, like that kind of like, okay, she's really gonna, like, you're not gonna play yourself type of thing, right? And I remember it. I remember it, and it's embarrassing because I'm a teacher, and oh God, but um, she just said, "Okay, well, tell me," and I'm like trying to BS my way through it, and she is not bugging. I didn't do my homework. I didn't study, and because again, math, CBEST was in my back burner. I was putting everything um for my credential program. Like that was my thing.
Mhm.
Little did I know I needed CBEST to be a teacher, right? But I don't know why my brain didn't make that connection. But there was a lot of times where our hour sessions was just me explaining my homework and seeing if she or doing my homework,
Mhm.
and um, it really sucked. And it wasn't until a little bit like midway where I was like, all right, you need to really do your homework type of thing. Like,
Mhm.
I will prioritize doing her homework so I wouldn't show up and waste not only one of the sessions, but waste my time and
Mhm.
as well. And that's why the second time I began working with Kanisha, I was kind of like, does she want me as a student? Because there was a lot of times where I know she wanted to reach to the screen and choke me because we were both sitting there and she'd be like, okay. And she would say it so like a teacher, like you don't know if she's mad or she's gonna, like she had no emotion. She's like, all right, let's do this now,
Mhm.
and that's where she saw like, okay, and I think that's where I really showed where I was really lacking in my skills.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for mentioning that. I know we talked about it before. I don't know if you remember, but that first time, like I can sit here cool as a cucumber, but inside I was just waiting for her. I was like, she is gonna let me have it. For me, it's a stressful thing, but it's a necessary stress. For me, it's worth it. So I'm glad you appreciate it. So um, going through, I remember sometimes you'd have correct answers, and then when I asked you to explain it, like there were times when like the board was littered with stars. And then there'd be times like she'd have the correct answer, and I'd ask for an explanation. Natalie would stitch some stuff together. I'm like, John, what you talking about?
Yeah.
But I had to keep in mind too, she's working and she has a life. And I forget that. I forget that people have lives. They cannot dedicate every waking moment to studying for a test course or whatever it is. Um, as a teacher yourself, um, did it cross your mind? Did you think about things related to wait time? Because I'm the queen of wait time, but again, it gets on other people's nerves and it stresses me out. And I think a lot of times we don't get what we need in educational environments because a lot of teachers either they don't know or they are afraid to enter into extended periods of wait time. Did you ever think about that? Oh, she's pulling the wait time card on me.
um Wait time as like, okay, I'll give you about 30 seconds to give me a response. Is that what you mean?
Or even whether the time is named or not, because I'm just waiting for it. We got an hour. Okay, well I'll wait 59 minutes to get what it is I need to get from you. So
Yeah.
whatever the time is to get what it is you need to get from a student.
um no, I really didn't see it like that. are we saying based on like the homework sessions that I had to do with you because I didn't do it, or overall?
Um, I'd say overall.
Overall,
Hmm.
um, again, I was so in my head is so engraved that if you talk a lot or enough, your teacher will be like, all right, go away, you know?
Hmm.
Um, and what I was feeling was not the reaction I was hoping to get from you. You were just be like, okay, and like that was how I felt. Like you're like, it's still wrong. It doesn't make no sense, you know? I
Uh-huh.
couldn't talk my way out of it. And at one point I was like, you know what, like my curtains completely fell. And
Hmm.
I was like, you get what this is me. This is basically me, you know? And I think
Uh,
I got comfortable to a point with you to tell you I don't understand it. I still don't get the connection.
hmm.
And yeah. And I think that's where I felt like the skills that I have now grew a lot more and I was able to transfer them.
Okay. So we work and work and work. And then oh, we forgot to mention. So in the midst of all this, Natalie is also trying to prep for CSET English 3.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Natalie, because like CBEST math and CSET English 3, and you are working and you have things in your personal life to take care
Yeah.
of. This what we doing, all the things. And it eventually came to a point. I think we worked together on CSET 3 maybe 3 weeks before she saw that she was
Yeah.
packing too much in. She's like, look, Kanisha, we have to take CSET 3 off the table and come back to it. For now, let's just pack
Mm-hmm.
CBEST math. We reached a point where it was the homework again, and it was the extended homework. So now we've covered a substantial amount of material. So of course, more material appears on the homework because things
Mm-hmm.
mount together, and she's required to write cogent math problems. So this homework is not getting done, and some stuff has to be repeated. And at one point, you asked, I don't remember your exact words, but you expressed you like, this is just kind of eating up all the time. Yeah, and it happened like a couple weeks in a row. I'm like, okay, not a couple weeks in a row. I think a couple sessions in a row, over the course of a couple weeks, and it was eating into your time, and so you were having to do your homework like back to back in these sessions. Eventually, like, well, can we do something else? Because this is just eating up the time. And at first, I was like, but you have to get this done. And I don't remember if you brought it up again, the desire to transition to something else, or if I just thought, okay, well, let me just let her have it her way. Um, Let me let her have it her way. I had to make sure I said that right because it sounded crazy coming out of my mouth. So I was like, okay, like let me give her a little bit more control. I don't know if you remember that period, but I think it happened. I know it happened near the end. I just remember exactly when it started, where you were able to have more input in terms of, I don't want to say how the sessions were going. Yeah, but like how the sessions were going. Um,
I do remember a brief one. I think it was towards the time my mom had COVID and the deadline for passing the exam was coming up, and
mhm.
and I I just wanted to like, because if when you work with Miss Carr, you're gonna see like she be doing too much sometimes, but it's a good she be doing too much. Like she
Hashtag
doesn't
team too much.
she she goes full in depth. Like she you're like, okay. And I think that's when I was like, I just teach me just I think I just reverted back to like just teach me topics, and I don't care if you feel like I have the understanding of them or not. I just want to take this test.
Uh huh.
And I think it was about 3 weeks worth that we were doing like that. And I think it came to a time when, because we set a date where I wanted to take the exam.
Hmm.
And I think there was a time where you got fed up with it because you were like, this is not gonna work. And and you never told me this is not gonna work, I'm done. I remember you nicely said it there's not much more I could do for you. I taught you everything you should know.
Wait,
And
wait, wait. That's after
oh,
that's
that was
after you took the
before?
test. No, that was after
Okay.
you took the
After I
test.
took the test? Okay.
Uh-huh.
So before that, I think I don't remember, but I know that it was just basically, okay, let me just throw this material at you. Hope you get it, hope you don't.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I didn't get it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. I'm glad you said that. You're like, okay, well, these I want to look at these problems, and
yeah.
these got from these. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
all right, let's do that, and it's fine. I'm like, and I get it. Natalie may not know this, but in so many ways, we are the same. And
Oh
so,
my
yeah, sometimes you just have to let people see,
God.
um, so that they understand that meat is greasy. The truth is the truth. And so she took the test. She sent me an email. She was like, I don't think she sent it the same day. I think you sent me the email a couple days later. When I didn't get an email from you the same day you took the test, like I just kind of knew. I was like, this can't be good. So when she did finally send the email, she was like, I failed. Did you get a 40?
No, I got a 37 or 38. I failed by 2 points the first time. Yeah.
Okay. And she mentioned that she was really disheartened. And I'm like, wow. And she said, I don't remember if you wrote this or if you said it to me when we talked. You said, I played myself.
I
I
said it
did.
to you when we talked.
Okay. All right. And I was like, I was relieved because even though there's the part of me that was like, okay, I think we should have followed XYZ plan, there's still the part of me that wonders what more I could have done or what I could have done differently. So when you don't do as well as you need to do, regardless of what happens, I feel like a complete failure. And I it affects my sleeping. It's hard for me to interact. Well, it's not hard for me. I do still interact with my other students, but in the back of my mind, I'm
Mhm.
still thinking about other avenues I could have taken. Like, did I not push her hard enough? Did I push her too hard? Should I have just said no? I know you just want to attack this stuff over here, but if you look at this stuff more in depth, you can cover it because it's going to be thrown at you different ways
Yeah.
on the test. Um,
I'm sorry, Miss Carr. I didn't know you got that invested. Like now that I'm
yeah.
teaching, I do lose sleep over my kids, but I was like, oh man.
But yeah, I lose sleep over the progress of my customers. And then I don't want people to be able to say, well, I hired her, I paid her all this money, and she didn't give me what I needed. That is a bad look. I don't like that. But when you came back, that's when I told you. I was like, well, I asked you, well, do you want to do just a coaching thing? And you were like, well, what's coaching? I was like, pretty much we were doing like toward the end, where like you
Mhm.
just kind of like tell me what you
Mhm.
want to do or like your weak spots, and I let you know what is what and help you reinforce things in certain areas. And you're like, I don't think about it, but I need a tutor, and I had to
Yeah.
do a last dragon on her, y'all. It was like grasshopper. There's really nothing else I can teach you at this point. You are
Yeah.
not going to benefit. And so what did you do after that?
So when I came back, like a little dog with my tail tucked in between my legs, and we talked, and you were like, "What happened?" But before I took my exam, she sends you like this cheat sheet, right? You get to know her. You guys build a relationship so well, and she sends you like this little rundown, and it's not a lot of wording because I know she's like, you're probably stressed out, so she gives you like little snippets about how you're a test taker, what's gonna catch you up, what should you do, and like a little mantra. Mine was like, I don't know if it was like the Kuna Matata or something like that, but it was
Uh,
something, and it was very colorful, so it was
uh,
nice, like it was a nice thing to see the night before or the day of, because
mhm,
you'll feel like she's in the back in the corner with you, right? Like she's in your corner, like in the boxing ring thing. Um, so that was really nice. And then that also, when I failed the exam, that also kind of hurt me more, because I was like, dang, she put all this. Because honestly, if I was a tutor, I wouldn't be doing all of that. Like, I would be like, okay, girl, good luck. I'm
Uh-huh.
not going to be on Google trying to do pretty stuff for you. Um, and I did feel like I let her down too, because we built this relationship, this back and forth relationship. And I feel like if you want to get out what I got out of this, you're going to have to open up and build that relationship. It's a partnership. It's not a one-way street. You're not buying a service like a fast food thing. It's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I came back and I told her, you know what? I paid myself. I didn't study. I felt like I could pull a fast one and pass it like everything else, what I dealt with math. And she did have that conversation. She's like, well, what do you want me to do for you? There's nothing I could do for you. And it did hurt hearing that, like, there's nothing I could do for you. But also at the same time, it was nice because you're paying out of pocket for this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's showing how genuine she is. She's like, I'd rather tell you the truth and say, hey, I already taught you what I think you should know to succeed on this exam, and I don't just want to take your money.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Yeah.
And now with inflation and all this going on, it's really good to hear, like, hey, you're getting your money's worth,
Yeah.
and yeah, I did appreciate her for that. And I think, like, um not only that, but you did more for me too. We basically did this deal where you're like, talk to me in Spanish so I could build my Spanish skills, type of thing.
Oh, the
Because
bartering. Yes.
yeah, because once I finished my program, I didn't have no more student loans, right? So I was like,
Yeah.
I really can't pay for this like the way I was paying. We would work sometimes 3 times a week for 2 hours, 3 hours when we'll do the practice exams. So it's a big investment, but
Mm-hmm.
I was willing to do it because I've always wanted to be a teacher. And I think those who will come with you, Kanisha, or who see this, basically do want to teach, and they have the heart for it, because of these stupid exams. They're not dumb, but I'm saying these exams are holding us back.
Uh-huh.
It's just like, it's not fair. It's
Uh-huh.
like you have these teachers who are in the field, but you're like, why are you in the field? You're not helping our kids, type of thing. And those
Uh-huh.
who do really want to put their sweat and tears into it are being held back by an
Uh-huh.
exam.
Uh-huh.
So
Let
yeah.
me ask you something. Are they being held back just by an exam, or because I just have it, or or the thing that's keeping them from passing the exam, such as being conditioned to just jump through hoops?
I think it's just being conditioned. I think it's being conditioned. Like, I don't I never felt like I was taught great math until I worked with you. Like, for example, if you guys are going through a program, if your student, you'll know when your student learned, when he or she's able to transfer that information outside of your classroom into your real life.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I learned with Kanisha when I was at Target looking at 25% sales. That's not really that much. Like, that's when I knew. And also I knew when um I'll be talking with my family, and they'll say like, oh, it's this much by this much, and right off the bat I could do mental math, you know
Um,
like, that was the reassuring aspect, that I was like, dang, it was worth it. Like,
mhm,
for you to have family members who knew your weakness and be like, oh my god, your math has gotten so much better. Like,
mhm.
it's so rewarding. And like, that's what we're teachers for. Like, you want to get that reward. And I did transfer a lot of my what I learned online also into my real life. Yeah.
Cool.
Hmm.
You mentioned, and I don't, I've never been to Natalie's house, y'all, but it's like I picture this how she's telling it to me. She said, so you're watching TV, and your eyes would wander from the program up to your posters. You want to tell people about those posters?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So um Miss Carr came up with like these little formulas to kind of work with my brain and my thoughts process, and she made me create this poster. And I remember it was like in January 2021, and she's like, hey, you have homework, I want you to create this big whiteboard poster and write down the formulas, right?
Hmm.
And then it was like, okay. And my head, I automatically went to, okay, this is like elementary stuff, right?
Uh-huh.
It wasn't like before, write down these notes and look at your notes, come and look at them. No, she wanted this big white poster board. And I think I have it around here in my house still. Um, and I put it, and she said, put it somewhere where you're always going to see it. And I tend to always hang out in my living room. So I put it right under my TV. And um, after knowing that she's going to help me accountable about my homework, after knowing that she's a real deal, and I didn't want to pay myself no more, I would like my mind will gravitate towards the poster board. Like I will
Mm-hmm.
constantly look at the formulas and look at the little examples,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just another thing. Like it was engraving into your brain,
Mm-hmm.
the formulas, and yeah, I think the poster board helped a lot. Because
Okay.
it's visual. You'll see it all the time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, test day. Um, that's a nice segue. Talk about it. How everything gets stuck in your brain. Can you tell the people about your the next test session
Mm-hmm.
and the testing environment? Um, how did it go? What was your score? What'd you do?
So, I took the math test 3 times, and the second time I failed it again by 2 points.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the first time it was no, everything was computerized because of COVID. Prior
Mm-hmm.
to that, I was taking paper-based exam,
Yeah.
but now because of COVID, everything had to be in a computer, and you had to go to a testing center to go get it done.
Mm-hmm.
The second time, the testing environment is not hyped up that it should be, right? If you struggle with testing environments like I do, if you struggle with time tests, if you just have anxiety off the wall,
Mm-hmm.
the testing environment is not welcoming, and it's another obstacle you're going to have to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you hear all the clackling. Uh, where my testing center was, it was right where they had info sessions for security guards. So like
Mm-hmm.
right outdoor, they were having like these little sessions, and you could hear all the conversations and laughs. So
Mm-hmm.
it didn't help whatsoever. Um, and they give you this whiteboard. And me, I'm a pencil paper type of person, and I like seeing my work. I like going back and looking at my steps. But they only give you this little 8 by 11 whiteboard,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to erase everything. So that added more anxiety to me, because once I erased it, I was like, you have to be for sure that this answer is correct, because you can't come back and check your work.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah. And I had to do that 3 times. And then the third time where I did pass the exam, the testing time was cut in half. So that
Mm-hmm.
added more anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was a make it or break it moment, and I passed it. And I not only passed it, but I think I like over succeeded by so much. I got a 70. And yeah.
And for those who don't know, the CBEST scoring is scaled. So you get between a 20 and an 80 scaled. There are, is it 50 or 52 questions?
50
Uh,
questions, multiple choice.
okay, 50 questions, multiple choice. 80s at the top of the scale, 20s at the bottom. You need a 41 to pass. And then, like, there are some other mitigating circumstances depending on your scores on the other tests. If
Hmm.
you do well enough on the two other tests, then you can get a 37.
Yeah.
But if not, you need to get a minimum 41 scaled on an 80-point scale. And Miss Girl here got a 70. Yes. And
Yeah.
that third time, I think you said you were the only one in the testing center.
Yes. Yes.
What, the only one testing? You had access to all
To
the
all the
extra.
whiteboards.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
she didn't have to keep erasing stuff because she was the only person there. She was able to talk herself through
Mhm.
problems when necessary. How much of a benefit do you think that was to you?
Oh, it was a lot. I think that's what put the icing on the cake, because as soon as I walked in the room, I asked the lady, I was like, am I the only one? And she's like, you'll be the only one to too.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that just lowered my anxiety level super down, because and the other times I wasn't the only one. I talk out loud to myself when I'm doing math,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want to interrupt other test takers. Like,
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, I was the only one. I didn't have to wear those uncomfortable headphones or
Mhm.
ear thingies that go in your head, and I was just able to focus. And it helped me greatly because I used the whole row and I had like all the whiteboards, and I was able to like jump back and star the ones that I didn't feel confident with.
Mhm.
And and I had extra time to do it. Not only that, but it was the time that they gave us was, it was, I don't know how many hours. They used to give us 4 hours to do the math. Now it's only 2.
Mhm.
And my math have improved so much that I had about 40 minutes at the end of the time to go back and really look at stuff. Back then
Mhm.
it was like right to the number. I didn't have time. And not only
Uh-huh.
that, I had time to like take a break, because she'll tell you take a break. Your head gets overwhelmed with math, that she'll
Mhm.
want you to either go use the restroom, take a break, close your eyes, look down, type of thing. So I had enough time to really implement everything that I was taught, not only in math wise but also as a test taker, and it just lined up perfectly at that moment for me. And it was really rewarding. Although I failed it twice before then, I would think I would be like devastated, but this time it was just like I did it, and like every like going through life, like I'm 30 years old and going through life and knowing that your weakest skill is math, but passing
Uh-huh.
this test, and not only passing it but like exceeding on it, it's like
Mhm.
wow,
Uh-huh.
it is very rewarding. And I think the issue was that growing up I was always told like you're not good at math. I was never have that confidence in me. But like I said, working with Kanisha, she builds you up. Yeah.
You mentioned, oh, your anxiety. Do you want to talk, or do you feel comfortable talking about that, or no?
Yeah,
Good.
I didn't know I had anxiety until I began studying math.
Mhm.
And mind you, when we're talking, you hear me like, you sound like you're studying calculus. No, I had like the biggest fear of math whatsoever. Um, and I had anxiety, and I think I noticed I had dyscalculia. I think my anxiety will intervene with my thought process.
Mhm.
um and you guys are in programs and you guys are going to learn about this if you haven't. So like if a student is not, his or her effective filter is not low, learning is not going to happen whatsoever. And
Mhm.
it took about 2 months i where I had to push my effective filter and be like, you know what, Miss Carr, this is the real deal. I suck at math. I'm giving it to you raw, but I'm willing to put in the work.
Mhm.
um and then and I would ramble. When I get really anxious, I ramble.
Mhm.
And and I think it's also me trying to cover up, like I'm not trying to cover up my insecurities regarding math. um but that was a hard thing for me to overcome. I don't know if it was the testing environment this last time where my anxiety was like, okay girl, you're the only one in the room, or my it was just me going into like survival mode and being like, you got to get this done. So I
Mhm.
don't know really. But if you have anxiety, I would say try your best to go get help. Me and Miss Carr try to do some things to help calm my anxiety, but those things really didn't work out. I don't know if we could talk about that, Miss Carr.
Oh, tell the
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
about this.
So
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off,
uh
but I don't want you to think I'm not paying attention. I need to close something else out so that
okay.
I have more time to record. But
Okay.
tell.
Yeah. So she asked me, she's like, I think you have anxiety. You should go get medical help. And I did try to go get medical help, but my doctors at that time, it was COVID. They were so overwhelmed. I was pushing the back burner. Like um, and she's like, okay, well, I'm like, I do CBD to go to sleep because that's the only way I could go to sleep because I'm dealing with all this anxiety. She's like, okay, well, let's try that during a testing session.
Hmm.
One Saturday, I did a CBD little gummy, but I was just so like off the chain, and I did really bad, and I didn't know how to tell her that the CBD affected me more than it should.
Uh-huh.
Until the next time when she's like, "What happened?" And I was like, "I was high off my mind, like I couldn't really focus." So that didn't work out.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so like that's another thing. She's really trying to come up with ways to help you find a plan to cater to your testing environment, Like, we're all different learners. The testing environment for these exams are no joke, especially now with COVID. Even before then, it was no joke, right? But still, I think the Pearson people don't understand that just kids suffer through testing anxiety just the same as adults. And I think for adults, it's a lot more because we have a lot of writing on it. We have this, like, if I don't pass this basic skills math, then like a lot of self-doubt, because I had that self-doubt in the beginning. I was like, then why am I going to be a teacher? I'm not going to be good if I can't pass this basic level exam, you know?
Yeah.
So I think you just need to be honest, because if you're not honest with her, she's not going to not go out of her way, but she's not going to be able to come up with plans to help you. She can't read your head.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. People understand that I cannot help you if I don't know what's going on. About how much more time do you have? Can you give like
Oh, I
maybe?
have time. I don't work today because of the heat wave.
Okay,
Yeah.
but time is still valuable.
It's okay.
But I thank you. So, you mentioned to you. Oh, after oh, so there are people that I coach when I tell them to take as many breaks as possible, and they can't take as many breaks now because they don't have for what is it, CBEST? They no longer have the full 4 hours for a single test. It's like an hour and a
Mm-hmm.
half hours. But I would encourage people to take as many breaks as possible. And somebody confessed. She said, "Kenisha, I took one break and I wanted to take more, but I was afraid because I thought the testing center folks would assume that I was cheating by having to,
Oh,
and she
yeah.
had like severe anxiety. I mean, she eventually told me. She didn't tell me right then. She told me a couple weeks later that she went in the bathroom and broke down and cried. She was going through
Oh,
it. Yeah,
no.
during that one break when she went to the bathroom, she went back to the testing center and she couldn't say too much because there are other people there, but
Mm-hmm.
mentally she's trying to talk herself through it and she's just falling apart and afraid to
Yeah.
go for another break. So, do you want to talk to that? Speak to
Yeah,
that?
the testing center, they really try hard to scare you. They make it and it is scary, you know, again, like you're right, there's a lot writing. You're becoming a professional, you're going for a credential that's going to be processed to the state of California. So they have you, first of all, depending where you go, well, I went to CSUN and there they had me do my fingerprint. And they were monitoring the room. There's cameras. Like any little movement, the camera will move towards you, and that
Mm-hmm.
just added more anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you sign this contract stating that if you look down, if you turn away, if you do this, or I don't know, play with your fingers, if the person viewing you, because
Mm-hmm.
allegedly they have people looking at you,
Mm-hmm.
monitoring the room, has the right to come in, ask you to step out and cancel your exam, and you're not able to do it. So
Okay.
there's a lot. Like, I wish they would have given examples to be like, this is what A, B, and C means. Like, this is what we mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, they don't know that we suffer from anxiety or we have issues testing, and they do allow you to submit document, but because your test states, for example, if you don't know, oh, I need it by this date, your doctor's not gonna get it done by that time you need it, right? So it's like we're basically going in like fingers crossed, I hoping for the best type of thing. And I really wished it was, don't worry about all these other outside factors, just go in and do your test. We
Mm-hmm.
want you to succeed because there's a teacher shortage. But it's not like that. It's like, good luck. uh it's basically like, I'm gonna be honest, like, we want your money, like, type of thing. Like, good luck. You got 45 days to come back, do it again. See you next time. I
Mm-hmm.
took the CBEST like 12 times before working with Kanisha, and it was just like money down the drain. And I'm looking at it back, I'm just like, but you know, like you said, like Kanisha said, I was so processed on like jumping through these hoops.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. You mentioned money down the drain, and I lost our figure because
It was
he
about,
bad student I am. Let's see. So it's 663, and then 12. Was it 1285? And
it was a
then
3,000. Well, not including the second time I came to back to work with you for CSET 3.
okay, and then
But before that, it was 2,500. Yeah.
okay. Um, All right, so you spent about 2,500, and we worked together. CBEST math and CSET three,
Mhm.
we collaborated on,
Yeah.
and you spent about $2,500, and we worked together for a total of about 60 hours.
Mhm.
Okay, so came, worked together for the math, um, failed, devastated. We had a last dragon moment where I was like, Mama, I can only coach you.
Yeah.
Like, I got to figure this out. And then you took the test another two times, right?
Three
And
times. So one before the last dragon moment, and then
mhm.
the recent one. Yeah, and the recent one before I came back to talk to you to work with you for CSET 3. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So
Mhm.
a total of three times since
Yeah.
then. Let me took it once,
Yeah.
failed, then took it another two times,
Yeah.
failed on
But
the last try.
it's not her fault. Like I honestly like I know it's like dang, she took it 3 times. She's not that great if you voted. It's not her fault. Like we like I said, the first time I played myself. The
Hmm.
second time, um, I don't know what happened. It was just a testing environment because that's the first time where I only had 70 minutes to do the exam. And then the
Hmm.
third time it was like make it or break it, like we got to get it together. And that's where it and then the third time I wasn't working with Kanisha anymore. It was just me by myself looking at that poster board, going over my notes and my homework, um, and just going over my thought process. And the third time I passed it with a 70. So please, just because I didn't pass it the first time, if you know you're not a good test taker and you suffer through all these other stuff like I did or I still do, it's not her fault. Like it's just a work in progress. You gotta It's like a recipe you gotta find until you make it as good to work for you.
So kudos on that. 70. And I remember you telling me, am I crazy or did you tell me that you were afraid that
They were
somebody
gonna
like,
flag me.
yeah.
Yes, because if you look at my test scores, it went from like 22, 26, 37, 38, like, and then it went all the way to 70. And I'm like, they're going to flag me. They're going to think, hey, I cheated or
Uh-huh.
somehow. And so for a
Hmm.
good moment, I was like, man, I was waiting for my email to be like, your test was flagged. Da, 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 da. I was like,
Uh-huh.
oh my God. But no,
Uh-huh.
I was already trying to like come up with like written response to be like, no, this is show all my tutoring receipts if I had to.
Uh-huh.
But yeah,
Have
but
you
they
ever
didn't.
seen Stand and Deliver?
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of when you told me that. I forgot to mention. I was like, she must have seen Stand and Deliver.
No, but I
Yeah.
have. I've seen that movie.
Yeah. Okay. So CSET three. Okay, CSET three. You taken all the other CSETs, one, two, and
Mhm.
four already. Three was the
Mhm.
last one. You still hadn't taken it, but you came to me preemptively, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We
Okay.
worked together about a month and a half. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So tell the people about
How is
that.
that different from math? Okay, so I knew right away. I'm like, okay, first of all, I'm not gonna study my own. Like, this is not gonna work. And save money and time. And also, if you looked online, like I know most of you guys have, if you're going for the CSET English, 3 is the hardest one allegedly, because also you have to write 2 essays and show that you know enough knowledge to teach. Um, and it's timed, and a person who's in the field is actually going to read and grade it, so it's not like a multiple choice. So that was already my anxiety up, and not only the test passing rate was up, knowing that not a lot of people passed the first goal, that was already up. So I was like, you know what, let me just go back to Kanisha. And because it worked. If I was, I should have gone through all my other C sets to go with her because I struggled on C set too.
Hmm.
The sentence, the grammar part. Um, and looking back now, I would have gone straight to you because I would have not only kept the knowledge but passed it and felt confident in myself. Um,
And she doesn't know this, but CSET to English is my favorite CSET to teach.
I
But
could tell. Look at your board in the back. It's a grammar board.
my favorite to teach.
Yeah. So so I came to her and I was very anxious again. Um I I emailed her late at night. I'm a night bird, a night owl, and she didn't respond. She's really busy. She didn't respond. So I took it as like she don't want to work with me no more. She's tired. She's over me. You know, like all these thoughts going through my head. And I remember calling her during my break at work, and she picked up and she was like, "Yeah, girl, I remember you. Sorry, I've been so busy." And like just this whole sense of relief ran through me. And I was like, man, but just knowing that she was she remembered me, and B, to be like, yeah, I'm still willing to work with you and be in your corner. Like that was just like the sense of relief, because we already worked through so much together, and it's hard to build that rapport with someone, especially online. Like that's the hardest thing. Um, and I felt like she could help me. Like we got this. Like I could do good with her, and I could pass it on the first go. And I did. And to be honest, I wasn't prepared to pass it on the first go. Although she was like, "You got this," and we spent, and keep in mind, like I thought we would have to start from the beginning. Like this is a thesis claim, this is da 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 da, this is this. And no, like it was basically like, okay, let me just tweak your writing. Let me just give you like what you need to know to pass, right? Because she's like, we're not going for fours, we're going for threes. We're just trying to get this done. And you're just trying to get this test done, right? Like that's the end goal. Um, like the numbers don't matter if you're a great writer or not. Like, yes, you need a three, but if you get a four, who cares? You just want to get this done. Especially in my case, that anxiety levels were off the chart, and like that she already knew that was gonna be a game changer for me. Like she's gonna have this mental writer's block was the biggest fear for me too. And then not Balad Shakespeare, man. I know I'm an English teacher. Ugh, like Shakespeare was like, I'm gonna fail if Shakespeare's on this test. But no, I was willing to do the intake exam again. I was willing to do the questionnaire. I was willing to like do whatever I had to do. If I had to do the whole process all over again, I was willing to do it. Like I basically emailed you and I said, what works for you? Let me know what time. I'm willing to work around your schedule. And I'm not like that. Like I'm not, you could ask my husband. I'm not, you're going to work with me. Like I'm the head honcho. But the fact that I felt so comfortable with her, I was like, I'm at, I'm yours basically. Tell me what I got to do, you know? And we worked about a month, and like I was so anxious too, because I'm like, she's an English major. She was an English teacher in public school. She's going to eat up my writing, you know, like this is what's going to be. Um, and no, she's never said anything where like you can't write or you can't do this or you can then do that. And she did take into account one of the samples homework that I sent in. She's like, I really want to work on your sentence structure. And then she's like, let's do it right. Let's edit it right now, right? Like so she'll see my thought process. And
May I interrupt you?
yeah.
So people are clear. What I did not realize was that she wrote that under, I don't want to say, I was about to say under duress, um, under stringent timelines. And so under a stringent deadline. And
Yeah.
so I thought we were going to have to do all this work in terms of sentence structure. But when she was given an opportunity to just look over her stuff and edit it, she was fine. She was
Yeah.
not give
Yeah.
her enough credit as a writer.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, like it goes back to she wasn't holding me accountable. She was just like, let me see what you could do. Mind you, I didn't do the intake exam, and the one we did before that, because we did it when we had the last dragon moment. It was a kind of a long time ago. I came back working with her for 2022, and this was already I think 2020 or 2021. So there was a large gap. So I started going at it, and she said, "Okay, you're good. Never mind. You know, you have work. Your brain is tired." Like she took all these things into consideration. Um, and yeah, she like it felt like a partnership. It wasn't so much like if you do need the tutoring, she'll meet you where you're at. But if you have your writing capabilities are a little bit higher, she'll she'll be like, okay, let's tweak this. Um, I think low key she probably is a grader for the CSET 3, because I'm like, you know, things that I don't even know. Because she'll be like, okay, this is what they expect, like this is what we want to add in, right? Because if you look at the test books they give you, it's overwhelming. The examples that score passing scores are like, these people are legit authors of college books, probably, that, right? Like if you grew up in a public school, half of those words are not in my vocabulary, right? It's
Mhm.
like now that I'm in the field, I'm putting them in my toolbox. But prior
Mhm.
to that, I was like, I was never taught this. um so she works with you. She really goes down and she's like reading, like she like, and you'll notice this about Miss Carr. She reads in her mind's processing everything in her head, and she'll be like, "I'm not ignoring you. I'm just processing everything." And then at the end, she'll give you like a feedback. It's like her mind's a computer. At the end, you'll get like the report coming out of the printer, and she'll like, "Okay, let's work on this. Let's work on that." Um, and she highlights, and like she gives you like the sense like, okay, she's really on my team. She really wants me to pass this test. And
Mhm.
I did. I was so happy. I was so shocked. I was so scared. I remember we did how many times. I did it in a month. I set it up to I'm like, Miss Carr, I have July 27th. That's when the test comes out for August 15th. And I
Uh-huh.
start my new school year on the 29th. That test is either gonna make or break me.
Uh-huh.
And although I was super anxious and scared, and deep down inside, I was like, I cannot do this in this month. Just
Mhm.
knowing that I had Miss Carr like in my corner, I was like, I got this. Like, it was a little bit less nerve wracking. And then also hearing it from someone who's so good at writing, to be like, you could write, and she will tell you like. I remember I said something like, I'm not the greatest writer. I suck at writing. And she's like, no, 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 say that. Don't say that. You would always get on my case about me always belittling myself.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so it worked out. I passed it.
And that and so we are clear. This was when I saw what she could do. When I saw that first sample, I was like, praise his sweet name. You're gonna need a little extra work. Like, it'll be all right. But when she got in there, when she was given time and space to write the way she knows how to write, she's fine. And I think, and I need people to know that so that they don't get the sense that I'm just gonna blow smoke up they behinds, because me lying to
Oh
folks.
yeah, no, no. I don't know how she's gonna give you clips. So if you're watching a clip of this was already her telling me, you need to, not telling me, but like basically letting me fall on my butt about not doing my math homework, and I was online with her for an hour doing work. Her calling me out about like, okay, your thought process really doesn't make sense to how you got to this question. So we already had about months in where I already expected to be called out. So I
Yeah.
knew when I came working with her, I had to bring my A game, because I already wasted so many times with before with Miss Carr. Yeah.
And there were things, I don't want folks to think like I'm a genie. It's not that. Understanding, I appreciate that you mentioned my willingness to meet people where they are, because in my mind, there's something to take into account. I'm sorry, my thoughts are bottleneck and I'm trying to unravel them and share. So I want to go back first to something you said a few minutes ago about these test prep books.
Mhm.
Now, you were asking, I don't know if it was supposed to be a rhetorical question or if you were asking me directly about the authors of those books. I haven't researched those folks, but I'm not a fan of those manuals because the advice they seem to give, it seems unrealistic under
It
time constraints. Yeah, when you take into consideration time, how much time you have to actually finish the test, and then understanding that people operate on a spectrum. I'm thinking even the best writers would have a
Mhm.
hard time constructing what's considered a four per those manuals, and without being given adequate time to thoroughly proofread um,
Yeah.
and and revise. So
Not
I
only that, but sorry to cut you off, Miss Carr.
oh,
Not only that, but the testing format that they give you the CSET 3, it's split screen. You can't highlight. If they give you a poem for the first essay, you're not
uh-huh,
able to highlight that poem. You're not
okay,
able to, for example, with me, I would draw lines and write down all the rhetorical devices and connections and all that to help my mind process the information. You're not able
Uh-huh.
to do that.
Uh-huh.
The second essay is right
Oh,
underneath.
wait. You know what? I'm gonna have to stop you
Okay,
because
okay.
it's illegal. I'm gonna have to cut this customer out. It is illegal
Oh,
for us to discuss the testing process.
okay, okay, okay. Never mind, never mind.
Oh my
Sorry.
goodness, I'm gonna have to go through here and like, no,
Okay,
but yeah, I
okay,
appreciate that you brought that up. Um, so I'm trying to think of a way to get around it though. Yeah, let's not even touch
okay.
that.
Let's not do it. Okay.
Okay, all right. Um, what? Okay, the authors, the books, the testing manuals. Oh, under meeting people where they are. So there are things that I didn't think were important. And Natalie was like, she wouldn't argue. She's like, okay. But then like the stuff would come up like what is it, colons and semicolons and hyphens. Intermediate or advanced punctuation. She wanted some of that sprinkled in there because you do get extra points. For what is it? The presentation of
The writing
very,
structure.
yeah, it's writing structure, varied sentence styles,
Yeah.
different types of punctuation. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, we're pressed for time. We don't have time to fool with that. Natalie was like, she said, okay. And I was like, I'm gonna get this. And I think the second time I was like, she know what she's doing. Let me leave her alone.
Yeah, but not because I wanted a point on the test. I just really wanted to have that on my toolbox.
Okay.
I like I really wanted to learn how to write English. Like I really wanted to feel comfortable in writing English. And I think it goes back to a lot of like not feeling capable, you know. I've always had a struggle in my education.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone thinks, well, you might not know me personally, but a lot of my group friends think you're smart. You went to here, you went there. But deep down inside, I didn't know that I had to work my butt off. But not only that, most of the time I got lucky and got passed through.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I got into these little test situations that, like, all right, this is where we're really going to see what you're about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't taught to succeed on these exams if I did it by myself. So I
Okay.
really had to go in and say, okay, I'm investing in it to pass a test, but also to make myself feel much better about myself because I know I'm a good writer. And that's why I was bugging Miss Carr about punctuation.
Cool. And that's a nice segue. So, do you mentioned wanting to pass the test, but also wanting to just be good
Hmm.
um, at the material. Do you? And I know you mentioned this near the very beginning of the interview, being passed along, just jump through hoops, being passed along. Do you feel cheated to some degree, having experienced that? You go through a K through 12,
Hmm.
and we have these benchmarks. Oh, I passed fifth grade, I passed eighth grade, I passed my senior year, I get these diplomas, I go to college, got me another diploma, I know all
Yeah.
the things. And with the college one,
Hmm.
okay, K through 12, taxpayer money. So you're paying for that. Well, maybe not you specifically, somebody in your family paying for
Family.
that.
Yeah.
Somebody's paying. And then on top of it, there are fees associated with post secondary education, college education.
Hmm.
And then you have to come out your pocket again to not only take these tests, but to get tutoring to pay to help you learn material to pass the tests that you were given the impression that you knew already. Do you
Yeah.
want to speak to that or no?
I did feel cheated. I like again, it hurt my confidence. All through, I don't know. I think it's like I don't. It's just the education system in general, you know. And also where I'm from, I think we're practically set up to fail type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a very low income community. I grew up in the projects. I didn't have the best education. I didn't have the
Mm-hmm.
best teachers in the world. Um, so a lot of the things I basically taught myself. With math, it was always in the back burner because I never wanted to be a math teacher. In my head, it was like, just get through these classes, do what you got to do, until I reached the CBEST. That's where I was like, dang, and even looking back at it now, I don't think I had the teachers other than Mr. Rodriguez that I felt actually taught us. So even though if I was a good student in math class, I still wouldn't have passed these tests. And I do think that college is a lot like high school, like the first 2 years. And you're able to slip through the cracks. I was a student who slipped through the cracks all the time. And my best teachers were my teachers who called me out on it. And I appreciate that. And I know a lot of students won't like being called out, but we're all adults, and you're paying for this service. So it's like, be honest with yourself, especially now everything's expensive. Do you want to waste your money and your time and then push back either your chance to student teach or actually finish a credential in my situation? But I did have some resentment, and I think that has affected me now as a teacher, where I'm like, I'm not pushing my kids through. And it sucks because I have so much heart to help students, but because I wasn't taught properly, it's like, it's your fault, when it wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
And I felt like that my entire life until I passed my CBEST. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Why were you? I'm gonna go back to the fee. So we worked together about 60 hours, and you spent about $2,500. I think it was a little more than that though. It was a lot.
It was a
Well, it's a pretty chunk of money. I know everybody, let social media tell it, everybody's balling, and blinging out of control. But for we normal people, it's a pretty penny. Why were you willing to spend that much money, your money, on
yeah.
this?
It was different. You basically feel like you're in class, like you have a teacher, you have that one-on-one time with the teacher. And I really wanted to learn. I really wanted to transfer that math skill into my real life. But I think those are the two main components, like feeling like, okay, I'm really working with a teacher who not only cares about me, but understands what I'm going through. And me, the desperation of like, I want to know this stuff. Like, if only someone taught it to me when I was younger, because I self-taught myself a lot of the information. And it was an investment. Like I said, this learning basic math has helped me so much save money when I go shopping, um, or like picking out what type, like gallons and pints and quarts, like which one's better, like where am I gonna get more bang for my buck, And it's also like the feeling you have of like, I've improved so much, and I did this. It's so rewarding, and I
Yeah.
think as teachers you could share that in your classroom.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you so much. Okay, we are going to wrap it up since I've held you hostage for like an hour and 23 minutes, girl.
It's
So,
okay.
is there anything else you want to add before we go?
Yeah, so little did we know, one time, I don't know if you remember this, Miss Carr. I call her Miss Carr because she actually worked in my high school. Yeah. She said something like my HP babies, and I'm like, wait, what? Huntington Park? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, I was in Huntington Park. And she
Mm-hmm.
was an English teacher. I was with another English teacher. I never worked with her, but I was like,
Uh-huh.
man, I would have been a better student if I had you as my teacher. And since then,
Oh,
I call her Miss Carr. Like, it's such a small world.
uh-huh.
Um, but it doesn't matter if you didn't have that experience, like, oh, I don't know her, she was in my high school. You're gonna see it. Like, in the beginning you might be intimidated right off the bat because you're like, oh my God, I can't read her. But
Mm-hmm.
once you guys pass the intake, and you guys have these little bump roads where she'll call you out on your if you're lagging,
Uh-huh.
you just build a rapport, and you're like, okay, I got this, we could do this.
And so y'all know, it wasn't like we didn't figure out that we were connected that way until like near the end of the first time when you went.
Yeah, into the second time, the dragon moment, right before the dragon moment.
Okay.
You were like, oh yeah, that's when we find out. Yeah, that's when we found out. Yeah.
Well, thank you for meeting with me and doing this interview and speaking to the people. Um, Somehow, I think we will end up connecting again. And if
Yeah.
so, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so grateful. I'm grateful to have met you, to have worked with you, and not just because you are willing to share this information, people with people, to let them know about what I do. I'm gonna close it out now. Thanks, Nat.
Bye.
Bye bye.